Hi, my name's Adam Petrie, indie filmmaker and founder of Film School Sucks. We've all been there, staring at the blank page with an empty brain and zero ideas on how to get started. So what do? Today, I'm going to be sharing 7 different techniques I've personally used to generate amazing ideas for my films and screenplays. Before I begin, I just want to say that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to creativity and that what works for me may not work for you. So if something doesn't help you, just move on to the next. This is going to be a process of elimination, finding what works best for you specifically. So let's get started. Number 1, embrace boredom to spark creativity. One of my favorite filmmakers is David Lynch, and he wrote a book called Catching the Big Fish, where he talks about idea generation and his creative process. In the book, he compared idea generation to fishing, which I think is a very good analogy because it's something that takes a lot of time, effort, and patience. In the modern world, we are bombarded by distractions. We're getting notifications from our friends, our boss, social media, the news, you name it. All of these platforms want our attention, and it's harder to focus than ever. I think everybody can relate to having some of their best ideas in quiet stillness. Sometimes right before you're about to fall asleep, maybe you're just sitting in the shower thinking. These are some of the only times in the modern world where we're separated from technology. In the past, humans would have a lot of time to think and ruminate on things and be creative, but in the modern world, you have to be much more intentional, stepping away from technology and dedicating time to think creatively. So if you're not already, I highly suggest dedicating time each day or week to disconnect from technology and allow yourself to just think with no outside stimulus. You'll be amazed at how your brain will just run wild and come up with the most unique, innovative ideas. Number 2, focus on quantity, not quality of ideas. In the brainstorming process, you haven't committed to anything yet, so it's important to not judge yourself or the ideas at this point. You just want to focus on getting as many ideas on the page as possible. There's nothing off limits. You shouldn't feel afraid to have weird or off-the-wall ideas. You never know when one of these ideas will mash up perfectly with another one of your ideas. You don't know what's possible until you try creating it. Imagine a body horror rom-com. Or imagine a martial arts disaster film. What would these things look like? Even if they don't become a full project later on down the line, it's good to allow your brain to think through these things to find creative solutions. Also, when you go back through your idea bank and start trying to find projects to develop, it's going to be a lot easier to find those hidden gems if you've created a huge quantity of ideas. So just have fun. This is the brainstorming process. Write down all the ideas you have, good, bad, and ugly, and worry about the rest later. Number 3, stop worrying about originality. Now, I know this may sound crazy, and I'm not suggesting that you make boring cookie-cutter stories that nobody cares about, but let me start with a quote. Good artists copy, great artists steal, by Pablo Picasso. Funny enough, it's unclear whether he is the first person to have said this quote, which just hammers home the point even more. Most artists learn through imitation, just like I did my best Quentin Tarantino impression when I was writing dialogue in my first short films. Sometimes, filmmakers can't break out of this cycle of just mimicking other people's work, kind of like how doing a paint by numbers doesn't mean you're a great artist. So here's one more quote to take this a step further. If you steal from one author, it's plagiarism. If you steal from many, it's research. Wilson Meisner. Essentially, the thing that makes something original isn't necessarily the idea, but how it's executed by the filmmaker or writer. Inspiration can come from everywhere, and that's a great thing. It's not about stealing from one source, but many sources. The more you combine contrasting and different influences, the more fresh your idea is going to seem. Nobody creates art inside of a vacuum, and it's impossible to rid yourself of your creative inspirations. It's all about combining and remixing ideas that you love and are obsessed with in a unique way that nobody has ever seen before. Here's an example of one concept being done in 2 totally different ways. An overprotective father falls into dangerous situations trying to search for his abducted child. Now, you've probably seen this in a million different films and movies, but this could be Finding Nemo, or it could be Taken. So it's really not the concept, it's the execution. 2 people making the same exact idea, could have drastically different outcomes. So focus less on the idea and more about making it your own and putting your own spin on it. Often I find when I have a simple film idea, it frees up my brain to focus on the small details that really make a film special. In Austin Kleon's book, Steal Like an Artist, he talks about how every great creative work is just a mashup of the things that came before it. The key is to not copy directly, but to instead remix, blend, and build something new from it. I highly recommend this book to anybody who's in a creative field or interested in the topic of idea generation. Number 4, the importance of creative rituals and finding your muse. Every single creative has a different way they get in the zone to create. Used to, I would take a freezing cold shower, I would listen to a single song to get myself into the world of the story I was writing, and then write in total silence. I found that any outside sound would distract me. Nowadays, it's a little different. I do a lot of prep work, meditation, and make sure that everything is 100% ready to go in my story before I start writing, and then I binge write as fast as humanly possible in a 1 to 3 day span because I find that it's really important for me to get an idea out as quickly as possible. You must develop a sense of play around your creative process and start experimenting with different things. So here's a story. Salvador Dali is one of the most amazing surrealist painters to ever live. Part of his creative process was to get a chair and a spoon, and he would sit down in the chair and start to drift off to sleep while holding the spoon. And when he fell asleep, he would drop the spoon and it would clatter on the ground and wake him up. And he found that waking up just as he was drifting off into dreamland would give him a huge boost of creativity. Now, I'm not recommending that you do this exact same routine. It's a little bit strange, I'll admit, but I do think it's a huge benefit to artists to start developing creative rituals like this to get them in the zone to create. Everybody has a different muse, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. For some, it's reading books, flipping through comics, viewing artwork. It doesn't matter how you're inspired, it's just important to get inspired and allow yourself to discover your own personal muse. Find the themes and topics that endlessly fascinate you and write about these things that bring you that joy. Number 5, study genre to innovate on what came before. I've always been very interested in genre films, so for a while, this was my exact process. I would identify the genre I want to create in, study as many films in that genre as I can, figure out which conventions or cliches I liked and disliked, and then I would find out a way to innovate on those or subvert common tropes. I would then create the story I want to see in that genre, but doesn't exist. There are so many groundbreaking filmmakers that have come before us, so you're really doing yourself a disservice if you're not going back and learning from them. Watch films and really analyze what's been done before, why it works, why it doesn't. This will allow you to get the lay of the land and innovate on the genre easier. Going back and learning from filmmakers like this allows you to stand on the shoulders of giants. You will also know exactly what the audience has come to expect from these types of films and how to subvert their expectations or build upon them. This allows you to give the audience what they want in a way they never expected it. Or maybe you'll subvert their expectations entirely, giving them something they've never seen before. Once you've got your general concept, you can then choose a world for your film to help dictate what's possible in this reality and just start populating it with characters. This is a great way to hit the ground running with your screenplay. Number 6, once the ideas start flowing, it's about filtering and refining them. A notebook full of ideas doesn't matter if you don't take action on them. Sometimes it's time to brainstorm, other times it's time to pick a project and get started. Endless brainstorming can be used as procrastination, so it's important to allow yourself time to think, but know when it's time to buckle down and start distilling and expressing these ideas. These are the questions I ask myself when I'm trying to figure out what idea to pursue. Which of these ideas is the most personal to me? What can I not stop thinking about? Why am I the one most uniquely qualified to tell this story? I heard someone say once that you need to pursue the idea that won't leave you alone, the one that keeps you up at night. I think this is a great rule to live by. We hear it over and over to write what you know, but we don't often take it to heart. Instead of coming up with these big budget, high concept ideas to try and impress people in elevator pitches, start mining your life and experiences for ideas. Justin Kuritzkitz, the writer behind the film Challengers, watched tennis day and night trying to learn everything he could about the sport, and it eventually inspired the screenplay. I knew somebody with a close family member that suffered from Alzheimer's that they wrote a short film based off of their experiences during that time. Even when I look back at all the projects I've created in my life, they all meant something very personal to me at the time and were based off of my experiences and obsessions. So please, trust your intuition and instincts. When you've been brainstorming for a while, just take a break. Go out and live your life for a few days. Your brain will kind of be working on these ideas in the back of your head, so when you come back, you'll find yourself naturally gravitating towards one usually. Don't let yourself fall victim to shiny object syndrome. You shouldn't always be chasing that new exciting idea. You want to be focused on a single project and see it to completion. If you're working on a project and you have a lot of new ideas cropping up, instead of making them into a different project, see how you can filter them into the one you're working on currently. And if you find yourself stuck on your project, remember that ideas follow action. So moving forward and making progress is sometimes what's needed to discover your best ideas. Number 7, creativity is for everyone. Throughout my life, time and time again, I hear people say, I'm just not creative. And I wholeheartedly disagree. A lot of people think that creativity is like this mystical power bestowed from the gods that allows you to come up with these genius ideas, but that's just not the case. The reality is much simpler. Creativity is a skill, just like anything else. It's hard work, but you can improve and get better at it over time the more you experience. So if you're just starting out, stop thinking that creativity is impossible for you. The creative process often involves taking ideas from your favorite films, TV shows, books, and mashing them up to create something new. It's not a magic trick, it's more like remixing. So please, stop waiting for the perfect idea to just fall in your lap. Start with the ideas you have and build on top of them. Innovation often comes from reinterpreting what already exists. So remember, embrace boredom, come up with a lot of ideas, steal and remix from a lot of different sources, develop creative routines, and know when it's time to refine and look for that hidden gem in your notepad. And above all else, don't let the fear of not having a great idea hold you back from creating your film. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and share your creative process and how you come up with your ideas in the comments. I'd love to talk with you about it.